Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Video Game Cemetery, the most hardcore, metal as fuck video game channel of all time. And today, we're going to be looking at the most hardcore, metal as fuck video game of all time. The greatest, most underrated horror video game of all time, and that is Nightmare Creatures. If you remember, the winner of my top 12 was the fantastic horror masterpiece known as Nightmare Creatures 2, and I've been saying for a while now that I'll cover the game series in a full, dedicated video. And because I'm a lazy son of a bitch, it's taken me this long to finally get around to it. But in all honesty, I really feel it needed this much time to prepare for such an important video anyway. Nightmare Creatures is, in my honest opinion, the greatest horror video game series of all time. In this video, I'll only be covering the first game. I'll save the second one for part 2. I dedicate this video to the fantastic team behind the creation of Nightmare Creatures, the team formerly known as Callisto Entertainment. So without further ado, let's get down to the video. You want to know how much I love this game? You seriously want to know how much I think this is the best horror game of all time? Look. Right? Yeah, I got the fucking Japanese one as well. Dreamcast? Who remembers Dreamcast? The American N64 version, which doesn't usually play in the UK, but I've got an N64 that's been made to play USA games, specially for this one game alone. The PC version. I have everything on this game. Everything. So, what is Nightmare Creatures about then? What is the story of this game that I can't praise enough? Well, the story of Nightmare Creatures is heavily based in historical fact. It follows the hideous acts of black magic practitioner Adam Crowley, a once well-respected alchemist and scientist whose work led him onto the path of demon worship and Satanism. His acts were so evil, so disgusting, that the coven he was a member of, the Brotherhood of Hecate, kicked him out. Let me repeat that. A black coven of satanic witches thought that this guy was too evil. Metal as fuck. You see, the Brotherhood of Hecate were intent on creating an antichrist figure of sorts, a superhuman that could lead them and guide them into the dark sadistic pits of devil-worshipping lifestyle. And Adam Crowley was intrigued enough to steal information from these bastards. Most importantly, a secret alchemic formula to create life. How he did this I'll get to in a minute. However, this was not a perfect formula and needed quite a bit of tweaking. You with me? Good. You know the Great Fire of London in 1666? You know that world famous London fire that everybody learns about in school? Yeah, well, that was caused by Samuel Pepys, the famous historical member of Parliament who would always join lots of social clubs and organisations back in the day. The reason he caused this fire was to destroy the Brotherhood of Hecate's research into genetic manipulation and witchcraft before their evil deeds could cause any real harm. But stupidly, he would also write down that wonky-ass formula into one of his many diaries. And as you can probably guess, Adam Crowley managed to get his hands on it.
His hands defiling the bodies of the dead in his thirst for knowledge and power.
With this, Crowley began messing about with it in his dingy, grotty science lab infested with rats and all kinds of disease, and attempted to make this Antichrist being himself. But, because the formula was not perfected, it produced not superhumans, but monsters. Lots and lots of monsters. And demons. And even zombies. And after a million errors, Crowley just kept trying and trying. But the problem is, all his monsters are let loose wandering around the streets of London, which is where the game picks up. But there is so much more to this story than just that. Obviously, being in the UK, I grew up with the UK version of the game, which had an intro cutscene that scared me so much as a kid that I turned the game off and refused to put it back on to actually play the game until my dad was there to play it with me. I am dead fucking serious. It scared me that much. But get this. The Japanese version contained all the intro that the UK one did, but was far longer and told much more backstory than the UK version did. And it did it with precision. God damn it, the Japanese version for this reason is the best version for backstory, and I really do mean that. Instead of me explaining that to you, I'm just going to play you the Japanese intro in its entirety for you right now, so you can get a grasp on what it's about and really appreciate how great it is. You watch this and tell me it isn't beautifully dark.
At a time when the world was mired in poverty and disorder, the Pepys brothers were devising ways to get success in a yet unknown new world. The two would go on to establish their unique skills and make profound achievements in their respective fields of medicine and literature. A few years later, the two joined the Brotherhood of Hecate in London, a group active at the time in the realms of positivism and research into natural phenomena. However, the true and hidden pursuit of the Brotherhood was unholy research towards the creation of the ultimate human being. These depraved experiments led to the creation of mutant beasts and the spread of disease and chaos throughout London. And in the fateful year of 1666, Samuel Pepys, who foresaw the impending doom, set fire to the underground laboratory in the hope of wiping out every trace of the Brotherhood of Hecate and its evil research. In a matter of minutes, the fire spread throughout London, and the whole city was engulfed in flames. It seemed that all had perished into the ashes, save one. Now, Daniel Pepys, aware of his brother's suspicious acts, murders Samuel, and together with the gruesome records, disappears into the darkness of history. Ignatius, a priest in the Church of England and a specialist in mysticism, learns of a frightening increase in the number of missing clergy, as well as sightings of inexplicable monsters. Unable to obtain any facts or solid information, Ignatius one day receives an ancient and mysterious book from out of nowhere. Written on the cover of the tattered volume is Samuel Pepys and nothing else. In deciphering the contents, he learns of the mysterious Brotherhood of Hecate. Realizing the seriousness of what is before him, he quickly sends the book to his mentor in the United States, Professor Jean, and requests a detailed assessment. Professor Jean and his daughter Nadia begin their research based on this diary of Samuel Pepys. As fate would have it, however, Professor Jean is soon found murdered at his hotel. During his last moments, Jean has found the strength to leave a single message. He works alone, his hands defiling the bodies of the dead in his thirst for knowledge and power. His name is Adam Crowley, a man who was once respected in the field of science, until fate led him along another path, towards black magic. Now he is in possession of the mythical Lost Diary of Samuel Pepys, a volume that contains the detestable rituals of the demon-worshipping Brotherhood of Hecate. Soon, he will complete his work. Tonight, as the sun sets on London one last time, he will unleash his demonic brood onto the streets. And should no one stop him, this city will be consumed by a horde of nightmare creatures.
Yeah, fucking brilliant. Even Bloodborne took massive inspiration from the intro to this game. Just look at it and listen to it. It's grotty, it's eerie, it's dank and depressing. And this bit here? This is why I turned the game off in terror. I was about 10 or 11 when I saw this, and I had nightmares from it for ages. This game achieved what every horror game should set out to do. To scare. And it did it in the first 60 seconds before the fucking game even started. Pure brilliance. After the intro, we're kicked to the main menu. This menu is different depending on console and region, but it's all basically the same idea. You get a choice between two characters. Ignatius Blackwood, a priest demon hunter with a fucking bow staff, and Nadia Franciscus, a gymnast and biology expert who also knows martial arts and is trained with various swords. Personally, I always pick Nadia for sentimental and personal reasons, but it's really up to the player's preference. The game style is not a clunky tank control game like Resident Evil, and is actually very fast paced. Monsters will attack you the minute the game begins, and you won't get much chance for a breather. It is worth noting, however, that so long as monsters are off screen completely, no matter how close, they freeze in their tracks and will not be able to attack you. Your main moves consist of kicks, weapon attacks, blocking and jumping, with some sidestepping thrown in to dodge monsters' retaliations. You can chain attack buttons together to perform combos, which, in some cases, can take down monsters very quick. In addition to this, you can also pick up power-ups or spells. These usually only have one use before they disappear, unless you've stocked up on them, say. But they will not work on bosses, except on this guy, who actually requires you to use them. Some of these power-ups are offensive, some defensive, but all of them are very important and should be used wisely. You can run from monsters, but I really advise against it. Running from a monster often leads into you bumping into more, and often you will end up being ripped to pieces when they catch up and start to surround you. But that being said, even if this wasn't the case, I would not recommend running from monsters anyway. You see that blue bar in the corner there? That's your adrenaline meter. It is constantly lowering the longer you are in a level, and if it reaches the bottom, you die anyway. The only way to replenish this is by killing the monsters. You see, the air is contaminated by the evil atmosphere being created by Crowley, so clearing out the monsters is the only way to clear the air a little. Let them run amok and you will suffocate like a whale on the moon. The N64 version does feature an option to turn this bar off, which is great for exploring, but ultimately it's like taking away a part of the experience and the desperation which adds to the horror. Completing a level requires you to find the location hinted at on the loading screens between each stage, but there are also many secrets hidden throughout. I personally would recommend exploring everything, making sure you keep your adrenaline bar in check as you do so. Often it will lead to secret items or power-ups and lives that will definitely help you out in the long run. Some secret areas may require a bit of a risk or a leap of faith, but more often than not, these do pay off. Just another reason why I love this game so much. There is always more to discover. It's very much like Doom in this way, even giving you a similar level complete screen, showing what items and secrets you may have missed, and this allows for so much replayability. Now, a lot of people like to compare Nightmare Creatures to Bloodborne, which is a newer game on the PS4. And I can sort of see where they're coming from totally, but come on man, it ain't nothing on the original Nightmare Creatures. Nightmare Creatures 1 has a very Bloodborne aesthetic, yeah, I understand that, but it's still got a better atmosphere. It's got a better vibe, it feels tense. And let me tell you this much, when you see a docker coming towards you, you will have a heart attack. You will have a heart attack and die. Everything in this game, from the sound design to the graphic to the atmosphere, the ambience, the music, the look, the feel, it's pure nightmare feel. It's nightmare creatures. Nightmare creatures, you know? It's the best thing ever made. As I said earlier, there are boss levels in which you have to fight a big, tougher monster. These often require special techniques to kill, such as Hose Manuel, which has you flipping switches back and forth while avoiding his butcher knives to trigger spikes to extend from the wall and impale him. Or the Snowman, which requires you to pick up dynamite to blow the churches into pieces and impale him with the shards of glass. The Sewer Snake is the first boss, which is a nice mix of technique and hand-to-hand combat in which you have to knock these pieces of wood onto its head before taking it on face to face. But the final boss is the tough one, requiring you to use all your martial arts mastery in an all-out one-on-one battle to the death in which power-ups will never work. These boss levels are great and really do feel like a milestone once you have either outsmarted or beaten them. There are certain power-ups that last forever if you're lucky enough to find them. These require often huge risk takes or very intricate exploration to discover, and they come in the form of upgrades for your main weapon. For example, Nadia's sword becomes a sword with jagged teeth, or Ignatius's bow staff gets modified to have fucking axes on each end. These allow for more damage on the monsters, and in some cases, even dismemberment if used skillfully. I'm not 100% certain, but I'm pretty sure that it proves useful in the final boss also, as you can find one just a little while before the big confrontation. If you are skilled and able to overpower the final boss, who it is heavily implied is Adam Crowley after drinking that wonky formula himself, you will decapitate him and the game will end. Or will it? As a kid, I was so scared of this game that, along with a few other important factors that I won't go into here, inspired me to study demonology in real life. I am an expert in that field, in part because of how scared this game made me of satanic cults and black magic. I'm not scared of these things nowadays, of course. They are so much a part of my life now that they're like family, just like this game is. Robots, on the other hand, fuck robots. I can't handle robots. But this game, I can handle this all day, because it's so fucking brilliant. And even though I've played through it about 6 billion times since 1998, let me just say I loved playing it again to get the footage for this video. This game has done more than hold up well. It's still better than any horror games around now. And I love some games that come out since, such as The Suffering and Deadly Premonition. But even then, I cannot put any horror game or series above this. Nightmare Creatures is still the greatest horror game series of all time, in my humble opinion, which is totally right and don't ever question it. Yes, nostalgia is a part of it, I can't pretend it isn't, but even without the nostalgia, this game has something that I just haven't seen in full since. As I said in my top 12 PlayStation horror games video, The Suffering on PS2 had a touch of the Nightmare Creatures 2 vibe, but it was still its own vibe as well. Nightmare Creatures on the PS1 are, for definite, the greatest horror games of all time. So yeah, if you haven't played Nightmare Creatures, I urge you to go and do that right now. Go out and buy it. Go out and buy it. Get it online. Get it in the shop. I don't care where you get it. Go out and get it. Did take a while for this to arrive. That's why this video's taken so long. I ordered this months ago. I've been waiting for it to arrive so I can make a video and include this in it. This is the N64 version. Now, the thing with this is, it's got a brilliant new introduction. There's no cutscenes because it's an N64 cartridge and you can't handle it. But what it has got on it is something really amazing. An actual in-game graphics introduction with all the monsters coming towards the screen and that. But it does have a backfire, I'm afraid. For some reason, and I don't know why, the sewers level has been taken out of this. There's no sewer level, which is a shame. But it doesn't matter, because the game is still brilliant. Get it, if you can. Thank you for watching the Video Game Cemetery. Your continued support is appreciated. Thank you, I need the support. My channel's tiny, on no one's fault but my own, because I'm a lazy fucker that doesn't make videos. So, thanks for watching, stick around, and see you next time.